Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce to you our honorable speaker of today, CEO of Real Estate Promotion and of Investment Management Sector, Dubai Land Department, Ms. Majida Ali Rashid. Let's welcome Ms. Majida Ali Rashid and listen to her speech.
अस्सलाम अलैकुम, मैं आप सबका इस्तकबाल करती हूँ। मुझे बहुत फ़ख्र है कि मुझे आपके सामने अपने ख़यालात ज़ाहिर करने का मौका मिला। Ladies and gentlemen, on this day we are pleased to welcome you all to the Dubai into the Future, Pakistan edition. Pakistan is one of the most important nationalities and investors on the top 5 foreign nationalities investing in Dubai real estate. Through this initiative, we are highlighting together the future opportunities that investors from Pakistan can take advantage of in the Dubai real estate market, which is the leading market in the Middle East. In the real estate investment promotion and management sector, we make continuous effort by partnering with the real estate promotion trustees and other private sector in Dubai, with the aim of introducing the visitors community to the various investment opportunities and the advantage of investing in Dubai. Dubai was and is still a cultural, social, and economic hub for the Pakistan community. Dubai has hosted many events and forums in various fields, which target all interests of the Pakistan national residing in UAE, not only at the investment level, but also even at the entertainment and sporting level, by hosting and organizing the most popular game in Pakistan, cricket. This shows Dubai's interest, represented by its wise leadership to the Pakistan community, which consider Dubai and the UAE as its second home. We hope that these initiatives will find wide interaction and participation and contribute to outputs that will strengthen the economic investment and cultural ties between the two countries. Thank you so much. मैं आपके शुक्र गुज़ार हूँ कि आपने आज प्रोग्राम शिरकत की and खुदा हाफ़िज़.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughtful insight, Ms. Majida. I would like to thank everyone once again for joining this event. We're gathered here today to talk about the real estate investment opportunities that Dubai has to offer for Pakistanis all over the globe. It is our great honor to introduce to you our speakers of today, CEO of Medallion Associates, Mr. Masood Al-Awar, Deputy Chairman of Hashu Group, Mr. Murtaza Hashwani, CEO of Modulex Properties, Mr. Samir Adam, CEO of Keystone Realty, Mr. Ali Sajjan, and partner at Alfredi and Angel, Mr. Masood Alfredi. For the agenda of today, we'll be having a panel discussion followed by a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. So please drop in your questions on the wall for the speakers to respond to during the Q&A session. I would like to now give it to Mr. Masood, CEO of Medallion Associates, to share his thoughts on this topic.
I would like to welcome all the guests and a very good day for everyone who is participating with us onto Dubai into the Future, Pakistan edition. I would like to welcome everybody who has taken the time to join with us and talk about this event where to look at what Dubai has to offer in terms of real estate investment opportunities. And we have been there. So it has all the time that I've been working on from the day one on the real estate history for the last 20 years. So I have seen a great opportunity for all the investors from around the globe to join this platform and listen to the various viewpoints from all the other speakers as well. And I'd like to extend my gratitude to all the people who are willing to listen to us, the concept of Dubai into the Future, especially that we are on the verge of attending the world's biggest show, and that's Expo Dubai 2020, which a lot of opportunities can be looked at on a daily basis. And all these opportunities will be reflected onto the real estate for sure. Thank you very much for all of you for listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Masood. What would you say is the attractiveness of the city of Dubai as an investment destination?
When we talk about the attractiveness of the city of Dubai, it is the track record that Dubai as a city has in terms of a growth that it happened. I'm talking about the part of industries, which it was the trade, the transport, the tourism, and right now it is the technology. All these have been supported also by a great leadership of Dubai under His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President of the UAE, and the Prime Minister and the ruler of Dubai. His direction in terms of creation a single destination for all the people to be looking at in terms of their trade and their businesses have made the city the cities of opportunities where people can come in. With my history of the last 20 years into the real estate, I have seen the evolving city of Dubai. How did it happen from day one when the customers used to look at the real estate investment and look at the other sectors which are supporting it? Should it be the safety of the investment? Should it be the security of the investment? Should it be the value of the investment? And I've seen the city of Dubai has created a lot of wealth for all the investors across the globe. And here, when I talk about the people from Pakistan also, I think despite of the other factors, not only real estate, the trade that it has happened in terms of foreign direct investment, the real estate investment that it has been flowing from Pakistan to Dubai has been enormously very important. And therefore, I'd like to welcome all the people who will listen to all the experts during today in the morning to say how things can be really developed for all of us.
That was a great insight. I wanted to ask all the speakers to give their suggestions for real estate investors who are considering Dubai. What suggestions do you might have for people who are considering Dubai as an investment destination?
I would just like to add, I think Dubai definitely has a lot of added benefits. When you look at it from a Pakistan perspective, I think from a geographical, it's very close. I think Dubai and UAE especially is not new to Pakistan. It's a 50-year-old relationship. And when you look at some of the opportunities in Dubai at the moment and UAE, I think when you look at it from a return perspective from a rent side, I think you're looking at minimum 8 to 10% returns on a rental yield, I think, which makes it quite attractive. Second thing is when you look at the dirham to dollar peg, I think that's another attractive perspective. And then last but not least, I think when you look at the developments in Dubai, they're quite unique than most other places in the world. So you get an opportunity to buy into real unique opportunities, like you can buy an apartment in the Burj Khalifa as an example. And there's so many new developments that are coming in. And then obviously Dubai offers the opportunity to be completely tax-free. So that's another added advantage.
I think we can spend many hours talking about the advantages and investment opportunities in Dubai, and the brand Dubai, the city Dubai, the prospects of being in Dubai and investing in Dubai. And I'm sure most of the listeners are well aware of most of these attributes. But there's essentially, there's an evolving legal regulatory framework that also helps support investment and protects investors. And my colleague Shahram is very well versed, as he's experienced in this field for the past 15 years or more, I imagine by now. So Shahram can give a very good insight into some of the key developments and topics that we would advise on to anyone interested in investing in either existing properties or off-plan properties, which are approached in a very different manner from a legal perspective. Shahram, may I invite you to just give a couple of comments on just a general sense of the legal and regulatory framework surrounding real estate investment in Dubai?
Of course. Thank you very much, Masood. So as you may know, since the early 2000s, a regulatory framework has been put into place for foreign nationals who buy property in Dubai to have a title deed and receive a title deed. That was done in 2006. And once that title deed is received upon full payment, then you have full ownership rights with respect to that land, as you would, for example, in Pakistan. And so that gives you the protection under law. It gives you the registration of your plots, the dimensions, the name of the owner, and all the rights that are associated with that. That's for a built property or a piece of land that you may purchase, or a villa which has been built, or an apartment that's been built. If it is off-plan, and certainly off-plan has become more and more popular as the market has been gaining momentum, then there are additional protections to protect purchasers. There's an interim registration that happens when you purchase off-plan, so you're paying for an apartment that hasn't been built yet, but yet you still get that protection as soon as you make the first payment through a registration at the land department called an Okud registration, or interim real estate registration. In addition to that, the money that you pay to the developer will go into an escrow account, which is monitored and remotely controlled by the government. And that money that goes into the escrow account is subject to strict controls to try to control the proceeds that leave that escrow account, only to be used for construction and certain other matters related exactly to the construction and the progress. And so there are some very good regulatory protections that have been introduced over the years for purchasers, and certainly from the beginning of this market for foreign nationals in the late 90s until now, sitting in 2021 and on the cusp of Expo 2020 starting in October, we have really come a long way, and the protections that are afforded to foreign investors are quite tremendous. As with any purchase in any jurisdiction, the location is critical. Location for all investors. And I'm sure that our friends Mortaza Shwani and Mr. Masood and many others are very familiar with this and have done very well over the years in investing and building these properties. The developers that you look at, again, as with other jurisdictions, you should be looking at a developer's track record and what they've built and how they've done. How is the building that they've delivered? Is it something that's livable and service charges? Are people who are living there happy? So you should do your research, your due diligence, as you would in Pakistan, and understand the procedures and the laws that are associated with purchasing. What do you have to do? How much do you have to pay? There's a 4% fee that you have to pay to register and get your title deed. That's quite standard. And the procedures for transfer, the service charge amounts that you have to pay, which just to let you know, are controlled by the Land Department of Dubai, by the government. They're regulated so that they're in line with other similar developments. So there are a lot of controls that are put into place to make it easier and more comfortable for investors to invest in Dubai. I think I'll stop there and allow others to voice their.
Thanks, Shahram. I thought maybe just a quick soundbite on rent protection and RERA and how they interact with landlord-tenant interaction.
Certainly.
Investing then is also renting. So maybe you can elaborate a little bit about that as well.
Will do, yes. Rent protection is also in place in Dubai. It's a rent protected jurisdiction. You're only allowed to increase rents up to a certain percentage, depending on how much your initial rent was. So the takeaway message, it is rent protected. The standards and the data for what the rents are and how much you can increase it are again set by the Dubai government, the Dubai Land Department, RERA. And online, if you're that interested, there's a RERA, there's a calculator, there's a rent calculator where you can put in the location that you are renting in. Is it a 4-bedroom, for example, villa? How much is your rent now? And it will tell you whether, according to the regulation, you can increase rents or not. So that's on rent. You should know that it's rent controlled, and the government is very concerned that tenants are also dealt with fairly, and that it's fair both for the landlords who have the advantage, of course, of having the land and the property, but also for the tenants who are renting. The other aspect of landlord-tenant law is the issue of eviction, and you should know that as an investor, that eviction of tenants is not necessarily an easy event. There's only certain events that you can evict on if you need to demolish the property, if you're selling the property, and various others. So it's very limited. It is not that you can just evict if you want. So there are a number of protections, but overall, it provides for a great environment for investment and has proven to be quite resilient over the years.
Thank you very much. I would also like to ask you, what are your expectations for the real estate in the future of Dubai?
When I will talk about the future of Dubai real estate investment goes on, I have been part of this industry from day one, where this was in the year 2000 when one of the biggest developer, Emaar, started with the first project of an off-plan property ever in the city of Dubai, and that was Dubai Marina, developed by Emaar. Those were the days that I recall today, after 20 years. Every couple of years, people would have said, well, Dubai, I don't think it will be able to sustain. We have seen from around the globe, not one, many countries where they anticipated that this growth can stop, can start. But Dubai, with its own leadership, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, and the executives who made it really very different for people to invest. And my message was that every day, every time they say this Dubai will stop, Dubai moves on. And we did an event in London in 2019. And my topic was that I want to talk about 2020. This was before even COVID hits the whole world as a pandemic. So people expected in 2019 that Dubai 2020 and beyond will stop. Guess what happened? The pandemic hit in, the whole world stopped. However, Dubai, with its own great leadership, and the UAE as a whole, handled the pandemic very well, that I think we are the first countries who have recovered, and they have seen a growth post the opening of the pandemic as well, to start for Dubai 2020 and beyond. And that's why we called it. At that time, we discussed how Dubai will face future growth despite of all the negativity was based around, because Dubai was trying to boom its construction, go into different fields, diversify the economy. So all those have been set up today as a country, as a city, that the city will be evolving forward with plans that it is on a daily basis, can make sure that the city never stops. Dubai is about Dubai 24/7, making sure about all the people who are coming to Dubai, investing in Dubai, working in Dubai, and residing in Dubai or visiting Dubai, that they are safe at all means. Their investment, their lives, their well-being, and the whole community. So moving forward into the future, my expectation for Dubai properties, that there is a lot of room, because the sector has a lot of growth level that can happen. and especially for the institutional investor, not only for the individual retail investor, institutional investor, where they can seek an opportunity. And I think there's a lot of growth that has been planned, part of Dubai plan and the UAE plan for the next 50 years. So there are a lot of plans that are bound to happen. And we are talking about something around billions to be achieved in terms of on a yearly basis in the next 9 years. So whomever wants to invest, you want to invest in a country that you will find the governmental support is around you, protecting you, and they are putting their investment along with you. So it's a very good medium term and a place for you to look at it with more positiveness in terms of your investment. Anybody wants else to add?
Yeah, Masood, thank you. I just want to add one more point, which will be on the mind of a lot of Pakistani viewers or listeners. And that is that the point that you're making, I just wish to elaborate on the point that it's not just about buildings and villas, it's about infrastructure. So what it's not about private developers going out and developing buildings in isolation. What's happening in Dubai is that the infrastructure is also growing at an incredibly rapid pace in anticipation of growth. So you never have an issue of shortage of electricity or telephone lines or roads or even traffic jams. Everything is being anticipated sometimes years in advance, be it airports or anything. So the rapid growth and opportunities you find in real estate are, should I say, supported and even more than supported by the rapid growth in infrastructure, which is becoming more efficient and more robust as well. So with all these new units and developments that you hear of, in lockstep with all of those developments, you'll find that the infrastructure is also developing very rapidly, and that's entirely to date funded by government initiatives in certain areas like energy on a public-private partnership basis. But that's also there. Hospitals, schools, everything is being encouraged to help absorb the additional inhabitants that Dubai expects in the future. So you're not going to have a bottleneck of having more people here than amenities. You'll have all the amenities working with the type of influx that Dubai anticipates with its growth.
As an investment, that when you invest in Dubai, you will find yourself as if you are going on with investing with a governmental support, that Dubai as a city is one of the cities in the world where the governmental entities and the public sector has so much drive on a daily basis to do what is best for the residents and for the clients as well.
I'd like to add another point. A very big part of Pakistanis investing in UAE is also because of the basic security of investment. As Shaham and Masood both brought up, the protection of the finances and the money that's brought to UAE is actually extremely important, because in Pakistan, the transparency is a little, it doesn't exist as much as here. For Pakistanis putting their money out of UAE, one of the biggest points that it's secured, the money and transparency exists, and the security of the transfer of the property. Just to bring it up, that's one of the biggest key factors for Pakistanis bringing money out of UAE, out of Pakistan into UAE.
My main point is not even only the security of the investment, even the rental yields, what we're talking about. In Pakistan, the rental yields are very low. It's only 2 to 3%. If I'm not wrong, Ali, you know it very well. And most of the time when we are talking about rental yields, most of the investors are they want something for the investments where they can get at least 7 to 8%. And Dubai is a place where we can get at least 7 to 8%. And nowadays, even if you talk about good big developers like Emaar, Nakheel, Dubai Holdings, Union Properties, they're taking out the projects they have their own post-handover payment plans, where we have a double-digit rental returns. For example, we actively work with Emaar, like we say Dubai Creek Harbor. The rental returns are like 12%, 13%, 14% a year for the first 3 years, because when we say it's ROI, it's return on investments, right? So people, they really look for these things, especially in all over the world, and Pakistanis are really interested for these kind of things. So I think they should look into it in investing in Dubai.
And I think to Ali's earlier point, it's very important to highlight that, you have a currency that's pegged to the dollar, so it's fairly stable in that respect. And in terms of taking money out of Dubai and wiring it out of Dubai, there are no restrictions or permissions required. It's just a banking transaction. I think the key challenge for any Pakistan investor is how do you get the money into Dubai? And I think that's one area that requires a lot of thought, perhaps within a government-to-government forum. But taking money out of Pakistan has always been challenging, and people have had to use all the routes that are available to them, sometimes not the official channels. And the challenges we face as attorneys who are working with clients in Pakistan is trying to work with funds that come through money changes or money transfer through other means, and trying to have that accepted within the forum and environment of a prestige development. So you need a very strong banking relationship with people outside, and that's not readily available to every Pakistani. So that's always going to be a challenge, and something I think that both governments need to think hard about in terms of trying to find ways around that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. He's absolutely right. In terms of banking, it's the biggest hardship for Pakistanis investing here, especially now with the new regulations, with the new government of money going out of the country. It's become tougher to bring money to Dubai. Absolutely right. And that's something that could be worked on.
But don't you think, Ali, if most of the developers, like the major developers over here, if they open up their central account or main accounts in Pakistan, and people investing in Pakistan can easily transfer the money over here. Like, for example, me selling apartment, for example, I'm giving in Pakistan, and if he wants to do a down payment, he's a bit afraid, so he can straight put the money into Imar's account in Pakistan, and then they can just transfer it over here. Simple.
Yeah, unfortunately, Imar's ability to transfer here is regulated by the State Bank in Pakistan. And State Bank has a regime of general permissions and special permissions. And I can't see under what category Imar will be able to export the money back, because it's not investing it in Pakistan. So you can't just go to Pakistan, open an account and take money out. There has to be a special provision, which is a special permission, which should have to be in place for that.
Yeah, I know that, but there are many things like, there's a new account called Roshan Digital Account, if you know about this.
Yes.
For example, many of the Pakistanis, they have Roshan Digital Account. They
That's
can
okay.
even do the investments like this, right? And for people living over here doing an investment in Pakistan, they use Roshan Digital Account.
Exactly.
They can do something like this.
Exactly. I have a few ideas, which I can talk about if we have time. Otherwise, the Roshan Digital is geared towards inbound funds.
Yeah, I know
Money
that. I
going-
know that. I know about this, but
Yeah.
something like this. I'm not saying
Exactly.
Yeah, something
I
like
mean,
this.
one idea I had, and unfortunately it's a government-to-government dialogue, is that if you were to set up an infrastructure fund, say, for example, you take one of the banks in the UAE that's operating in Pakistan, and you say, okay, we do an offset where if you can get $1 billion worth of investments from Pakistan into Dubai, Dubai would then pledge $1 billion of investment into Pakistan in return. And that would then be administered by one of their banks in Pakistan. So that bank would then typically go into large infrastructure type projects which have sovereign guarantees. And they would then administer that on a dollar for dollar basis. So, that way Pakistan doesn't necessarily lose out on a foreign currency, outflow. They actually bring in $1 billion, dollar for dollar. That's something that obviously the government would have to look at right now, even when special permissions are given in Pakistan, there are conditions attached to it that the capital will return and income will also be repatriated to the extent not required to meet any expenses for that asset. Income would also be required to be repatriated and taxes would have to be paid on it. So there is a semblance of permission which isn't readily available. And I think if we were to create some kind of a gateway or a bridge where there'd be an inflow and outflow, it would have to be taken up on a government-to-government basis. But it's sort of an idea that Masood and Murtaza and I had discussed very briefly on one of
And I think, Masood, that is one of the ideas that the city of Dubai, which I call it the cities of opportunity, thinking out of the box, can think and facilitate things to happen. And then I'm sure those aspects, whenever difficulty comes, as much as Dubai with its leadership have been well known for tackling all the difficulties, there will be a situation where we can create a government-to-government some relationship in terms of facilitating more real estate investment to happen. Not to forget that the Dubai Land Department in today, it's one of its main criteria is to protect the investors' money, one. And number two, to promote also, make sure that people who are not aware of what legitimately is available in Dubai to protect their things, for people to be more aware. So whomever comes from Pakistan to invest in Dubai, I want to rest assure everyone that they are immediately, directly joining hand with the government authorities of protecting their money and investment. Now,
Correct.
how that matters can happen, and always there's a due diligence, people have to go to the right channels and to do 1, 2, 3. Despite of all the difficulties, and I'm talking about the growth that the city of Dubai has seen in the last 20 years, and I'm sure there is much more to come 2020 and beyond. So the protection will be double. Sometimes you have to do double your work in terms of knowing where you're investing, how you're investing, but there will be always more information available from the governmental websites, developers' website, companies, lawyers, customers, real estate brokerage. All this information is a huge part, and I think Dubai as a city is going to where creating the big data that people will be able to access information at all time online as well moving forward.
I think Dubai, where it stands and where it's heading it's a story that's well recognized and appreciated, and there's a lot of confidence in that trajectory. The issue, and there's no real concern about the fiscal policies of Dubai or the protection of investment in Dubai. I think we've come a long way in the last 20 years in terms of how this sector has developed. But I think the key concerns that would remain in the Pakistani's mind, investors' mind, is from Pakistan, how to get the money out of Pakistan. And then within Dubai, the type of concerns that, or the type of issues they'd like to probably look at, which may or may not exist today to the extent that we can readily advertise them, is, what impact would that have on their visa status in Dubai, as an example? Would it elevate them to having some kind of residency that provides them a level of additional security? And also, whether or not they could develop some kind of a tax residency as a result of that. So the only thing that I think that Dubai would have to look at is some of the issues relating to their ability to travel in and out, live here if they want to, based on their investments. That's something that perhaps we can look at from a Dubai perspective. Everything else, be it the fiscal policies or tax policies, are more Pakistan-centric. And I think Pakistan needs to look at that. And in my opinion, there's no real incentive for Pakistan to do much there when there's a foreign currency deficit, unless there's going to be some kind of a quid pro quo from Dubai into Pakistan.
While we're on the topic of how far Dubai has come, I would like to ask Mr. Murtaza Hashwani, how far do you think Dubai has come from the past 20 years? How do you compare the investment from the past 20 years and how it's going to be in the future?
So Dubai is obviously a very, very unique, unique story. I mean, if you look at the 50 years of Dubai, and I live here, but we've been coming to Dubai for over 20 years now. And every year that you come, you see new infrastructure, you see new buildings. And I think it's really a place where they've mastered innovation in terms of adding quality of life, adding value to investors and to residents, and to look at tourism as an example. Look at real estate. Look at so many areas that the government of Dubai has focused on. So I think if you just go back the last 15 years, I don't think we need to go back much beyond that. And I think when you look at some of the new rules and regulations that the government has announced in the last 1 month, especially in the last 1 week, I think if you look at the next 10 years, 15 years, the good thing is that there's a strategy in place. So that's very important. Secondly, I think when you look at the implementation, I think they're very focused on where they want to achieve, how they want to achieve it. So there's a 5-year goal, 10-year goal, 20-year goal. And I think now with these new visa initiatives where they're allowing professionals to come and participate, to have this green visa initiative, to the golden visas. And it gives a lot of flexibility to professionals, engineers, doctors who want to come in and practice. So I think they're looking at making Dubai, make you feel at home. We're residents here, we've been residents for many years and continue to be residents in Dubai. So I'm very optimistic. I think real estate is obviously one key area. And you look at something 2 years from now, you'll see a new infrastructure, you'll see a new mall. So I'm very optimistic.
Thank you so much for your insight, Mr. Murtaza. I would also wanted to ask you, this is the question from the audience. Will Expo 2020 impact the landscape of Dubai investments? What do you think on this one?
Definitely. I think we've not had Expo in this region. So I think it's the first time. And if you look at the geographical area, the population of where the Expo is taking place, like in Dubai, so you just look at the population around us, Africa, India, Pakistan, Europe, Eastern Europe, we're looking at, a very sizable population, which goes into 1 billion plus. So I think, and Dubai obviously is a place that has put itself on the map. And I think, obviously it's going to showcase, each country is going to showcase their, what they have to offer. So I'm very optimistic. I think Expo will, and I think the government has gone all out. It's actually happening on the 50th year of the independence. And they've spent a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort, a lot of marketing, which we're all seeing. And I'm very optimistic. I think a lot of people will look at Dubai as an opportunity to come and set up businesses, to come and set up their homes.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone who wants to add on the point of how Expo 2020 is going to affect the real estate investment industry?
I am sure, because part of our role working with the Dubai Land Department is that we want to promote the real estate industry. And with the history that it happened in the last 20 years, looking at the past, because you always want to know about the future, you look at some track record. Like you want to be part of a city where they're doing the world's biggest show, which is Expo 2020. The expectation is high of the real estate based on the achievement of the last 20 years. So you got the tallest tower, the biggest shopping mall, one of the most unique buildings that it happened, the opportunity that it happened for the customers, their wealth growth, all this, looking at it. So if you know with the government what they want to decide in the next 50 years, which has been planned, part of a rule, so you want to be part of a city that has a vision, and that vision, you are not going alone, you are getting pushed and supported by a government to move into. So I think the opportunity of growth is huge still, because I have been part of this journey for the last 20 years, as I said, and I've been always, every 3 years, I think it will stop. I think there is nothing called stop, because the whole government considers achievement is a journey, not a milestone. So I think that will continue even for the real estate because of creating different opportunities for people to come, live, work, and enjoy is always will be a good part for the real estate sector as well.
If I can share on top of what Masood has said, if I can share with you a personal story about Expo and my own experience with Expo when I was a child. So I had the good fortune of growing up in Vancouver in Canada. And we moved there in the 1980s. And in 1986, of course, slightly before then, Vancouver, Canada announced an Expo 86. And before that, Vancouver had been a sleepy town at the end of Canada on the Pacific. People knew about it, but not much. In 1986, Expo came. It lasted for 6 months, like it's going to last here. And after Expo was over, a gentleman by the name of Li Ka-shing from Hong Kong took a great interest in Vancouver, bought the Expo lands that had some oil contamination, cleaned that up, sat on it, bought it for a song from the government, and developed what is now one of the major portions of downtown Vancouver. On the back of Li Ka-shing, other major developers, institutional money, American developers, various others came into Vancouver and built Vancouver into the global city that it is now. And so if that is, from my experience, a story of one Expo that occurred in one sleepy town and turned it into a town that's recognized worldwide, for Dubai that is already elevated to a level that we've worked so hard for over the past, let's say 20 years for the market, real estate market. Imagine what an Expo like that can do. We already have very talented developers and investors like the gentleman you see on this conference, but there are others from around the world, from Hong Kong, from China, from Europe, North America. There's institutional investors, there's pension funds. There's a lot of talent and smart money that we would love to attract. And I think Expo will be our opportunity to do that. And I believe it will.
Just to support what you said, I think the government is planning on 2022, on the first half, to invite all the big funds to be part of an FDI initiative to be taken, which is already there as well. So I tell people always, no one will tell you when is the right time to buy property. Every time we'll say, we told you so. So actually for me, looking at it, every 3 years, people will tell me a story and I have to say, just wait and look, wait and watch. So Dubai will have always a great leadership to offer, good facility, infrastructure, and opportunity for an investment. And I think always the time is there. So the future looks very bright, despite of all the support from the federal government to push the whole country forward for the next 50 years.
Just to add to what you were saying, I couldn't agree more. I remember attending the 1986 Vancouver Expo. I remember what it was like then, and then obviously having visited Vancouver over the years, and you see the transformation what the city is going through.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. It is astounding, and the people that it's attracted. Even, I mean, I'm a big fan of educational institutions as being, an engine for the growth of business by producing bright. And so even the educational institutions in Vancouver has grown to world stature, and that can happen here. And so the benefits that we can have and the growth that we can have can be really all the way up to the sun. And that's what we're hoping for. And we're all here to support it. And we encourage others who are listening to us on this to look at that potential.
And I think that one key difference here, Shahram, perhaps is that this vision of the next phase of growth has already been anticipated in the planning here. So yes. I don't think it may not necessarily be someone from the outside coming in and seeing the potential. I think the leadership in Dubai has already planned for that potential to get realized. So I think when people come to the Expo, they'll find that the infrastructure is there, the buildings are coming up, the properties are available. So the opportunities will be ripe. And as you quite rightly pointed out, I think it's time for the larger institutions to step in and become key stakeholders in this market, because that will then propel the whole regulatory and investment climate to a new level of sophistication, and
Correct.
which only create greater confidence within the market. And I'm
And
sure
this
that
is
Pakistani investors, so I was just going to say that the Pakistani investor is a very, astute investor. They take all these things into consideration, and for them, Dubai has traditionally been, a very, with its proximity and cultural, should I say, common ground, is a very, very much a second home for many Pakistanis. When Murtaza talks about living here, I mean, his key business interests remain in Pakistan, but he chose Dubai as a place to bring up his family and live, and he continues to be active in Dubai and Pakistan at the same time. And I had similar connections in the past as well. So I think living in Dubai, working in the region is very doable with the kind of logistical support we now have in Dubai. And a lot of people will consider that post-Expo, that why not, create some kind of a business presence in Dubai, so we can continue to do business in our home countries through our presence in Dubai.
And that's why, Masood, part of our role as a medallion associate, being the Dubai Land Department promotional trustee, we also took an initiative to have an office in Pakistan, because we want to be closer to customers, where tell them how, where can we advise and give them the support that they need. And I think Ali will be there in Pakistan to explore a lot of opportunities. And I think this is one of the initiatives that we have taken to do the first webinar to attract certain viewers to come despite of the pandemic. And I'm sure this pandemic will be over soon, crossing fingers, and we'll be there also to promote more things within the investor from Pakistan, to attract them to the real estate and tell them the benefits and how to resolve issues as well.
Speaking on Pakistani investors, do you think that we will see a strong footprint, like, for example, the Chinese investors in Dubai? Do you think we'll see a strong investment opportunities for Pakistanis as well?
No, I was saying that, again, just my previous comment about the proximity, Pakistanis are very, very familiar with Dubai as a landscape and investment opportunity. They have, through family or otherwise, great connections within the community in Dubai, great friendships and otherwise. So they know Dubai, they understand Dubai, and they know Dubai. It's something they understand very well. I think the only and opportunities, they understand the type of returns that both Samir and Ali were talking about earlier in terms of rental yield. Pakistan doesn't have those opportunities anymore for a long time. And this is an ever depreciating value, because if there's a currency depreciation, you can't hedge against that either. So Dubai as an opportunity and as an environment, I think is pretty well known worldwide. And in Pakistan, Pakistanis are acutely aware of Dubai. The challenge will always remain getting money from Pakistan into Dubai in a way which is, I would say, at least to a great extent, understood, recognized, and transparent. And I think people have to be very creative to take that first step. And if somehow we could facilitate that and make that easier, I think there'd be a huge influx of money from, even a greater influx, actually. They're not huge. Pakistanis have been very prominent in the UAE already, and in Dubai in particular. There'd be an even greater one. And I know, I think in the opening remarks, we heard about the top 5 investors being of Pakistani national. I would say that within that you'd say the top 2 of the top 5 are Pakistani origin, because most of the British nationals that invest here are actually Pakistani origin as well. So you have, it's sort of masked in terms of the diaspora, but there's a lot of interest from Pakistanis and Pakistani origin families in this region. They know it, they want to be here. The challenge is getting the money into Dubai, or not into Dubai, getting the money out of Pakistan.
Okay, with that regard, I have my views, because we took the initiative also to have the first webinar. I think we are bound to make things happen. And whenever there is any issue like what you explained about the money movement under government and regulatory, probably we can develop something and make it happen. So if you ask me, what do I think? Yes, I think there will be an influx growth in the Pakistani investment moving onward from 2020, because we are on the doorstep of 2020, and Human has been created to facilitate and make things happen, and we will take that initiative as well.
Sure.
So we are there always to advise and make things happen. So we take that role with our office in Pakistan through Ali Sarjan, and then all of us, we can create a systematic approach and make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's another point that I would like to raise is that if you look at the investment intentions of the younger generations today, because there's more awareness, there's more information, accessibility, people are looking for a best combination of the East and West. It's ideal for Pakistanis to invest here, obviously. But you also look at the capability of the government, which is providing you with the services. Obviously, it's easier for governments to state what they'll do, but to actually deliver is a whole new scenario. It's a whole new thing. And when I sit with the younger generation, my generation, a younger generation, every time there's talk about investing somewhere without hesitation or knowing that they will deliver, it's mostly Dubai, mostly UAE. So I definitely see this expo going a long way for Dubai, especially because there's so much interest in the younger generation to come and attend and to see what there is to offer. And obviously, Pakistanis do have that relationship, and we are aware of what Dubai has to offer. But I think Expo 2020 will be a huge advantage to allow the younger generation that are coming out to invest to come and see for themselves what Dubai has to offer.
But Ali, I would say just for the younger generation, what I've seen that Pakistanis living in Dubai, even Pakistanis outside, and Dubai is creating lots of jobs for the young generation at the moment. If you talk about Expo, we are creating lots of jobs, and what I've seen in the past 3 to 4 months, like they have a shortage and they can't find people, even the young generation, to go and work for them. Like all the companies, they're looking for people to hire for the companies, if I'm not wrong. So they're creating lots of jobs, even Expo. I think it's a good thing for all of us.
I just want to say that Shahram will have to leave now, and is very kind to jump in at the last minute to help show off the discussion on the regulatory environment. And if there are any follow-up questions, then please do address them to us, and I'm sure between Shahram and myself, we'll be happy to respond. But I just want to thank you, Shahram, for volunteering.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Aida.
I told him about this last night, so he's been a real trooper. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Shahram.
Thank you,
so
gentlemen.
much for joining.
Pleasure talking with all of you. Thank you very much.
I wanted to ask Mr. Mustaza Hashwani, what do you think is a smart investment strategy for Pakistanis who might be new into the investment industry?
Well, I mean, since we're on the topic of real estate, I mean, real estate definitely is a safe bet in Dubai. And I think if you look at the regulations, I think what the government has put in and some of the things that Shahram and Rasool were talking about earlier as well, you know, the ownership deeds, there are a lot of areas that you have free zones, a lot of areas that were previously not owned to international investors are now, those areas have been opened up. So, you know, there are more opportunities, I think, from an area perspective as well. I mean, look at a lot of the areas in Jumeirah where you could not buy real estate, you can buy real estate today. And so, you know, the government has obviously made it much easier. And with a lot of new real estate projects that are coming up, you know, and they're being very innovative in terms of buy now, pay later, you know, rent now, when that rent turns into your mortgage. So there are a lot of initiatives that the banks are doing, the governments are also doing from a regulatory perspective. So yes, I think, I mean, there are a lot of other areas that I could speak about investment, but, you know, real estate is definitely one area. And, you know, as you know, Dubai has different locations and villas have their own yields, and, you know, residential apartments and have their own yields. If you look at downtown, it's got its, you know, different pricing. You look at different areas, it's got different pricing. So I think it's important that understand how much you want to invest, what your returns are. And Dubai has and gives you that flexibility to look at investing 1 million dirhams or investing 100 million dirhams. It really depends on you.
All right, speaking of the initiative that the government has, this is one of the questions that we received from social media. Is the rent-to-own scheme still available in Dubai?
The rent-to-own scheme, always sometimes it gets available with different developer, different places. It is a scheme that Dubai has developed it since the 2003. So it's a scheme now, even it's created with more protection and participation with laws and enforcement as well by the Dubai Land Department. So the rent-to-own scheme does exist right now. And there are certain developers, but you have to look for it and find it. And it is available. Yes, rent-to-own scheme is available with developer. And more than that, with different payment plans as well, and funding, financing, everything is available as long as you go through the right channel, the right broker, the right developer, pass your 1, 2, 3, 4 for an investment, everything should be sound and clear.
Mr. Masood, don't you think even this post-handover payment plan, what all the developers are offering, it's somewhat same like rent-to-own, right?
It is like rent-to-own, but sometimes some people, they have a different mindset.
Yeah,
A client,
like the same thing, right? Post-handover payment plan and rent-to-own, but rent-to-own was a bit longer. This one's a little bit shorter. So the maximum a person goes 6 years in post-handovers at the moment, what I've been selling and I've been looking at the different projects.
okay, we developed the rent-to-own. First plan was developed, it was by Emaar in 2003 and on greens. The rent-to-own flexibility is because sometimes because we are working in a different country, and I'm talking about laws that it was there in the last 20 years. So the rent-to-own sometimes can serve people who can stay, because there are some people who work only for certain years, they want to come for 3 years, but they don't want to lose their income as paying rental. So if that scheme is available, they come in and they pay rent with a hope that they will be able to close it. So they don't want to throw the money away. So that availability is good for a different segment of the market. Now, the good thing is that those things, availability of it gives a lot of options to the investor. At the same time, it's good that you have variety for people to think about, because sometimes people don't want to decide on because once you go for for a long-term payment plan, it's an ownership directly. On a longer payment plan, rent-to-own is that you pay rent maybe first year, second year until you settle down. Maybe that is the time that you want to think about of an ownership. But more or less, you are correct also. That's a plan which may look like rent-to-own as well.
Speaking of payment plans, is there any additional charges on real estate that Pakistani investors should be wary of, or they should know? Any additional charges?
No, it's very transparent. Like, there's no other charges. We just need to pay some admin charges. That's it. There's nothing else.
Thank you so much. These are some of the questions that we've been asked from social media as well. What rental income can a homeowner expect to collect? An average rental income?
You mean to say in terms of percentage or in terms of?
Yeah.
In terms of percentage, if you talk about, we can go from 5% up to 20%. It depends, either it's a cash buy or on a post handover. So it all depends from properties to properties and location to location. And for example, villas, you have lower rental returns as compared to the apartments. For example, you take a villa in Jumeirah Park. So approximately your rental ROI would be around 5%, 5.5%. So if you go to Springs, it would be 6%. So it all depends from area to area. And if you go for a post-handover payment plan, it's 12%, 14%, 16%, because you are just paying the money and you're just getting the return on the money what you have paid. So it's ROI, right?
This is also another question that we have received. Can I sell an off-plan property before its completion?
Yeah, Dubai was from day one that always you can sell the off-plan, and we consider the off-plan sold two different parts. You can sell it to a different buyer, or you can go back to the developer themselves, and they have something called the secondary market. So, and that's a very active market where people sell off-plan and ready-made property where people trade and do that. And it's a proper regulated market also. It's not that it goes without regulation. On that one as well, its regulation is available from the developer, supported by the Dubai Land Department. So you're fully secured in terms of how you do it, and guidance are there from the brokers, from the online of the websites of the government as well.
Okay, thank you so much. Can you describe the process of sale and purchase in Dubai so that the Pakistani viewers can see how the process is?
For example, you just choose a property, then we need to sell, we need to make 3 forms. It's a buyer-seller's agreement. It's a Form F, which is MOU, which is called the Memorandum of Understanding. Either we make this one, if it's a primary sale, we need to show the units to the buyers, and if they confirm, we have to get the units blocked through the developers, and then the developers, they send the forms, you need to fill it out, and you need to send your passport copies and all the different documents along with the payments, and the property is blocked. It's a very simple process. It's not that difficult.
All right,
Hello?
thank you so much. What do you think are also the popular areas of real estate in Dubai? Anyone can answer this question.
Okay, Dubai, I mean, because I was part of working with top developers in Dubai, like for example, I can tell you that there are areas which are called the landmarks of Dubai or destinations. You got downtown, which is very prominent. You got the Dubai Marina, you got the Jumeirah Beach residences, you got the hot topic where people can think about now to invest is the closer areas to the Expo 2020. And there are huge opportunities there for people to invest. And I built on what our lawyer said, compared to Vancouver, what happened when they did the Expo 2020 and the investment went on. So today there's a huge opportunities of investment available around the Expo, different units. You've got apartments, villas, mixed use development by different developers are available. So, and you got other sides of Dubai also. If you want to explore, these are the areas which are the free zones which have been created by the government in the last 20 years. And I think if anybody wants to add something that maybe I forgot.
Is there anybody who wants to add on this?
Yes, I think the one
The top
point,
areas that.
yeah, the one point I want to make clear, I think a couple of our speakers made it in the beginning, was in the whole due diligence when you're selecting the right investment opportunity, keep an eye on the service charges, not just the track record, but also the service charges, because typically that will drive you towards a certain market in terms of the tenants and it'll ultimately also impact your return. So I would advise that keep an eye on the service charges as well, because that has an impact on your marketability.
Okay, because Masood spoke about the service charge, let me also clarify for all the audience as well. All the service charge charged by the developer is always monitored by the Dubai Land Department as well. So because all the contract has to be reviewed, this is part of an escrow account creation. So yes, but that service charge will determine sometimes in terms of a percentage of your yield. So it's a good opinion to look at that in part of the due diligence of acquiring the property.
All right, thank you so much. The next question I want to ask is to all of you. I would like to know some of the reasons why you decided to invest in Dubai compared to any other place in the world.
Okay, maybe my testimony will be conflicted because I am from Dubai and I've lived the entire, but if I'll say to any international investor, you look at the 3 aspects of the security of the investment, whether you want to go. Is the market that you're investing a growth market, has a potential to grow, even if the returns are low? but that market will be viable, one. Number two, is there is a governmental infrastructure supporting your investment. That also could be taken as a added advantage. Number three, look at the demographic of the buyers and the growth to potential. Normally, I tell people, don't look at demand and supply only. Look at population growth rates and look at job opportunities. Today, for Expo 2020 and beyond, they are looking at opening up, not only in terms of the labor market, rules are changing. As they said, I think Murtaza, he mentioned that the rules are changing in the last post-pandemic, and with regard to visa issuance, with regard to families staying together, with regard to job market availability, at what age people can start working, what attractiveness of talents Dubai and the UAE is trying to do. All that ingredients increases population and increases the job availability, which is very good for the market. These 5 reasons, I think it's good when you look at the market. Yes, you want to invest in Dubai.
Masood, I would just like to add on to what you're saying. I 100% agree with your sentiments. And I think the other advantage is when you look at Dubai as a government, and as an investor, you're already seeing the 5-year, 10-year, 15-year, 20-year plan, which is very unique when you look at global, where you want to invest. So when you're investing, when you're looking at investing in Dubai as an example, you know what's going to happen in 10 years. You know what's going to happen in 20 years. And I think the confidence anybody has is if you go back 10 years and you go back 20 years and 30 years, you've seen that they've actually promised on most of the areas that the strategic planning was for. So, that gives obviously any investor a lot of confidence.
One of the key things that I looked at in Dubai, and I think everyone will invest for their own reasons, whether it's a second home or whether it's an investment. But the one area that I found to be very attractive, in addition to everything everyone is saying, which I completely endorse, is how simple the tax regime is here. What scares me about a lot of other markets, and what concerns a lot of our clients about other markets, is the ever-evolving tax burdens that those markets present them. So, you may have a very good yield there, but you're paying taxes or rates. You may have a good capital return, but that will again get taxed, and the same, and so on and so forth. So Dubai doesn't have that very aggressive tax regimen here. It's very nominal. It's just on registration, and that's about it. So I think for me, one of the most attractive features is how tax-friendly it is to do business in Dubai.
That's actually exactly what I was going to say. And, there's add-ons to your investment. It's not always the rate of return, but it's the add-ons that you get in different forms, which is the lifestyle of being in Dubai in comparison to being in Pakistan. If it's a cost, it's a very small cost to compromising on your rate of return, which you don't really take in objective. But it's also that recently we've seen a huge interest in medical tourism here. We've seen a huge interest in other sorts of tourism here, but you also look at the other advantages besides just your rate of return. So it's just the sense that you can come here for a completely different lifestyle. You can do things that are not accessible to you in Pakistan. It's a sense of entertainment, it's a lifestyle, it's enjoying, different parts of, it's basically an ideal combination of being in the West without having to fly 12 hours on the other side of the world. And we literally have a dozen flights a day from Karachi coming to Dubai. You can just get up and leave on a 1.5 hour flight. So I think that plays a very important role in people investing in Dubai.
Thank you very much. And as now we're coming to the end of the session, I would like to ask Mr. Masood if you would like to explain the winner announcement for the luxury stay in Dubai.
Okay, we happily wanted this to be a successful and to offer the city of opportunities, Dubai. We plan to offer 7 days, 5-star stay in the city of Dubai. And the announcement will come shortly, and it will be on our social media, and we'll announce it, because at the moment we are tracking, and we'll be very glad to be in contact with all of you in the future.
Thank you so much, everyone. Now we're coming to the end of the session. Is there anything else you would like to add? Any advice you would give for Pakistani investors in real estate?
I think the advice will be that anybody wants to approach or find out anything with regard to Dubai real estate investment, you got the channels available, you got the different entities available, and we are there always at foremost. If any query comes up, we are ready to help and advise on it. And I think Masood wants to say something as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to just add that in terms of lending your name to the title of a property, you should consult with someone to discuss succession as well. And so before you sort of buy something in your own name, which will have a financial, should I say, focus, also look at the legal impact of succession, and definitely look at that as before you sign up to any of these agreements, because the planning comes in from the very beginning. You can't change midstream without a cost, that is. So therefore, it's better to do it in the beginning.
And my suggestion is to just stick with the master developers, such as the big ones, because they're more reliable rather than going with the private developers. So if anything happens, the investments are safe rather than going with small developers. And then in the end, if there's a problem, they're just going here and there. So better to go for the big ones, the big fives in UAE. That's my suggestion.
Thank you so much. Now we have come to the end of the webinar. It was certainly filled with a variety of insightful information. I hope you all enjoyed Dubai into the Future Pakistan edition, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Please follow us on social media to see the announcement of the winner. And I would like to thank the speakers also again for joining us and sharing your thoughts as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Everyone. It was a pleasure seeing everyone. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.